What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. And like I said earlier today, this is the video that I made a couple hours ago, just now focused on the defense instead of the offense. We're now going to take a look at the defensive prospects that are most likely to end up Seahawks after the upcoming first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. So, defense, we could use quite a few different things in theory. And I don't know if this is the direction I want to go because the defense has been bad for so long. I'm not really believing that adding another player, even a good player or a blue chip player, is going to fix it. But I also recognize the fact that we have Pete Carroll as our head coach, and we're probably going to want to invest in the defense, and we may end up spending our first round pick on it. And it's not the direction I would go with this team right now, but I will say that there are some players we could end up with that first round pick, again, 16th, that I would be very happy with, that I do think would help us at least somewhat. So let's think about this defense for a little bit. Positions that we can eliminate. We do probably need a nose tackle, but for the moment, it doesn't look like there's going to be a nose tackle in the first round unless T'Vondre Sweat kills his combine. So we'll come back to T'Vondre Sweat down the line and see where he is. I could see him maybe sneaking into the first round, and then he would be part of this conversation. As of right now, there's not much of a reason to believe that's going to happen. So, not doing nose tackle. We do need inside linebacker help, but there's no inside linebacker in this draft that I think is worthy of a first round pick, which is too bad because there were some guys who were supposed to be, but they didn't play well enough in 2023 for me to believe they held that end of the bargain. And we also have cornerback. We don't need to spend another first round pick on a cornerback. Maybe if we decided we're giving up on Woolen, but I don't think we're giving up on Woolen. And honestly, even if we are, we don't really need to spend a first round pick on another corner right after we get Devin Witherspoon. So I'm going to focus in on these other positions where a pick makes sense. We're going to do defensive line. We're going to do edge rusher. And I know that sounds a little bit out there, but bear with me. And we're going to do a little bit of safety as well. Those are the three positions that I could see the Seahawks utilizing a first round pick on if the right player is there. So the defensive line is going to be short because there's really only one guy. It's the guy you see on screen right now. There's quite a few edge rushers that are worth discussing, and then there are a couple of safeties that I do want to briefly get into. So without further ado, let's start with Jerzan Newton. So Jerzan Newton, Illinois, another Illinois product. So he and Devin Witherspoon probably know each other very well. He is by far the best defensive lineman in this draft class. He is by far the most dominant interior defensive lineman we've got here. He's built on his success pretty much every year. The issue with him is that in 2023, the Illinois defense was awful after being the best defense in the country in 2022. So the defense took a huge step back, even though he continued to dominate because they lost their secondary to the NFL. So Jerzan Newton was not on the same he wasn't on the same level of national exposure because Illinois was bad and their defense was bad. So that was unfortunate for him, but as a player, he continued to be very dominant, had almost 8 sacks as an interior defensive lineman in 12 games, 8.5 tackles for loss, which was less than he had the previous year, but extenuating circumstances, again, I want to stress that. And from snap to snap, he was by far the most dominant defensive lineman out there. As of right now, he's the only defensive lineman who I think is worth the pick at number 16. Again, we'll have to revisit with T'Vondre Sweat and see where he lands. As of right now, he's not projected to be particularly close, but that can change. All right, so that's the defensive lineman. Again, just one guy this year, really. I now want to go to edge, and I know what people are going to say. People are going to say we don't need another edge. We already have Mafe. We need to see what's up with Derek Hall. Nwosu's coming back. Edge is a position that I feel like you can always take another guy and figure it out if you think the guy is the real deal. Like, if you believe one of these edge guys is the real deal and your pick comes up at number 16 and they're there, you can figure it out. You can take them and figure it out. You can use a wider rotation. You can rotate your guys in and out so nobody's playing more than like 60% of the snaps. You can trade a guy, you can get rid of a guy. Like we could get rid of a guy like a Daryl Taylor and then rock next year with Mafe and Nwosu starting and Turner and Hall or Latu and Hall or Verse and Hall as backups. And then you've kind of got a little bit of a future plan for those guys, for the veterans to maybe eventually leave. Like Nwosu's going to get older, and maybe you push him out, and Dallas Turner becomes the starter, and then you kind of continue to set yourself up for future and current success at edge. This is a position where I kind of feel like you can never go that wrong by addressing. So I am going to discuss the possibility of the Seahawks spending a first round pick this year on an edge rusher, and I'm not against it as long as it's the right guy. So here are a handful of guys who it could potentially be. Dallas Turner from Alabama. He's the guy who basically took over for Will Anderson. Had kind of a down year in 2022, but 2023 came back with a vengeance. 10 sacks, 14 and a half tackles for loss in 14 games. Not one of Alabama's better teams. He was probably their best player. Forced a couple fumbles as well. So really good, really solid all-around edge. Another guy who's probably going to be really good against the run. Another guy who's probably going to be not, I mean, he's not Will Anderson. He's not on that Will Anderson level, but I don't think he's too far away. And he is generally considered to be the best edge in this class. So definitely on the table if he's there, not against it. And then you've got next up Laiatu Latu of UCLA. This guy turned into an absolute freak the last 2 years for UCLA after basically doing nothing as a Husky. What's up with that? 10 and a half sacks in 2022, 13 in 2023 in just 12 games, 21 and a half tackles for loss. Also had 2 interceptions, so shout out to him for that. Dude's an absolute monster. I think he had the highest pressure rate in the country and projects very well to the NFL as well. Probably another guy who's going to have great success as a outside rusher in the NFL in both a 4-3 and a 3-4. He is a little bit bigger than you typically see from a 3-4 guy, but that may not even be a problem to us anymore with the way we play defense. So this guy, very, very unique, very, very special. And if he's there at 16, I am not against it in the slightest. And then we have Jared Verse. Interesting story here. This guy had a chance to be a first-round pick last year, stayed back to try to become a top 5 pick, and it didn't quite happen. He had a good year, but it was not as good as the year he had in 2022, and he's basically where he was last year. He's projected to go in the middle of the first. He plateaued in 2023, 9 sacks, less tackles for loss. He was part of a really, really good team that won every game they played until their bowl game. And just generally speaking, didn't take that next step up to become a Will Anderson level prospect or even I don't know, just a random example, Aldon Smith level prospect. He's probably going to go in the top 20 if I had to guess, but he did not vault himself into that top 5 the way some people were thinking. So those would be the 3 edges that I could see us taking at 16, and I would be okay with any of them. I think Latu and Turner are more enticing than Verse, but if we got Verse at 16, I'm not going to argue with it. I still think that is a very good player. He's also young. There's some stuff to work through, but you give him the time, like you did with Boye Mafe, and like you hopefully are doing with Derek Hall, you could have something really, really good going forward. All right, 2 more edge guys, and these are guys that I think you would trade down a little bit before you drafted. First is Chop Robinson here. He goes by Chop Robinson, Penn State guy. This is probably a guy who's going to go near the back end of the first. The production just wasn't really there. He's still a very good player, very good prospect, very raw, has some stuff to work on, but immense talent, really, really good motor, but the production never got there. He missed some games this year. This was supposed to be his breakout year. He had 4 sacks, 7.5 tackles for loss. Really nothing all that extraordinary. 15 tackles, the fewest of his career actually, so it just didn't quite take off, but still immensely talented and probably worthy of a first-round pick. If we traded down a little bit and got Chop Robinson, I could dig that. No issue there. And the final guy who I view as a small trade down target would be Braylon Trice, another Husky here. He was our best player on defense. He turned it on hardcore as the season went on. Early on, he was kind of invisible, but by the end of the year, he was having these games. 5 pressures, 6 pressures, 7 pressures, just all over the quarterback. Had 2 sacks in the playoff game against Texas and proved that he's worthy of being a first-round pick. Now, I still don't view him the way that I view Latu, Turner, or Verse, but first-round talent, sure. He's a first-rounder, I think. So if we got him at like 25, 26, 27, I sign me up for that 100% all day. All right, so those are your edge guys, and I know people are going to get on me for suggesting we could take an edge in the first. I really don't think it's out of the question, and I don't think it's bad either. I really don't. I think that falling in love with getting obsessed about drafting for positional need is what got us in trouble in the first place, and looking at things through the lens of trying to draft the best player available is going to be far better than getting obsessed with, oh, we took an edge, we don't need an edge. No, you can always use another edge. All right, final position here is safety. I think this one speaks for itself pretty well. Adams will probably be gone. Diggs might be gone. Love could go either way, has a chance of being gone. We don't have a heck of a lot going on behind those guys. You could take a safety in the first round, and I know some people wouldn't like this either. They would hate taking a safety in the first. Let me say this. I would much rather take a safety in the first round than pay a safety 10 million, 15 million, 18 million a year. We've seen how that works. At least when we do this, we only pay the guy, what, 5, 6 million a year? It's a lot better. So give me that over what we've been doing the last couple years, which has not worked out. So the top guy here is probably Cameron Kinchens. This is the Miami, Florida guy. I've had my eye on him all year. He's a big-time ball hawk, 11 interceptions over the last 2 years. Little Ed Reed-like, obviously not that good, but he's a very good ball hawk, and he's been part of a Miami defense that has mostly been pretty good over the last couple years. Definitely somebody who I could see replacing Quandre Diggs if you decide to go in that direction, and we've seen what this defense looks like when we don't have a good deep safety. You get what we got with Tedrick Thompson, just not good, and this coaching staff doesn't know how to cope without a good deep safety. So if you move off Diggs, you might need somebody like Kinchens to replace him. So that's the guy who is generally considered to be a likely first-round pick, or at least a late second-rounder. Again, if this is the guy you want, I think you trade down a few spots and get him. And there's one other guy that I want to talk about here, and this would be another guy you trade down a little bit and get. As of right now, he's like a fringe early second, late first guy. I think he's going to go late first. I really like this guy. It's Tyler Nubbin of Minnesota. All over the place. Plays up, plays back, does deep safety stuff, has 13 interceptions over the last 4 years, 9 over the last 2. Also plays well in the box. He's a good tackler. Would be a great fit for a Fangio scheme because of his versatility, because of what he brings to the table in run support. This is the kind of safety that you want in a Vic Fangio-style defense. Versatility is the name of the game. So Tyler Nubbin, I think, will end up a first-round pick. And if we traded down to like 27 or so and drafted him, I'm not against that. I have no problem with that. I think he's a really good player, one of my favorites. All right, that's it for this video. I will see you guys later on today. Just wanted to go ahead and drop some potential Seahawks first-round picks this year. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you want. Let me know if you think I missed anybody. But to me, the 8 guys in the previous video and the 8 guys in this video will probably include the Seahawks first-round pick, unless we trade completely out of the first round, which could happen. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.